Zito, would you do the roll call, please?
Certainly. Councilmember Borelli?
Here.
Vice Mayor Hagan?
Here.
Councilmember Patton?
Here.
Councilmember Wilkins?
Here.
Mayor Thomas is noted as absent.
Okay, thank you. And announcements this evening? Zito, would you introduce?
We have one correction in the announcements. The introduction of the new employee is just going to be Amber Robinson, our new dispatch technician.
Okay.
And the chief will be doing that.
All righty. And other announcements we have, and I'm sure the chief is going to do that, is for the street closures, for 2 street closures, parade and the Christmas tree lighting. So, yeah,
Festival of Lights.
we're going to light the Christmas tree. So, okay, so how are we going to start with the
chief.
announcement of the chief? Go ahead.
Okay, Amber Robinson is our new employee at the police department. She's been hired as a dispatcher. Amber spent her early years in the forests of Grass Valley before moving to Placerville in 2004. She attended Ponderosa High School, where she spent all 4 years as an FFA member and every summer at the fair with her market project. After graduating with academic honors in 2009, she attended Folsom Lake College, where she is currently working on obtaining an associate degree. She currently resides in Cameron Park with her husband, Robert, but is looking forward to moving back to Placerville at the end of this month. During the summer, you can find her hiking and camping in the Sierra Nevadas, and during the winter on the slopes of Tahoe. Amber loves the history and small-town charm of Placerville and is excited for the opportunity to help this community and its members. Welcome, Amber. We are happy to have you on board as a dispatcher with our police department. Thanks.
Thank you.
Can we make a comment?
No, I was glad to see local girl makes good. How's that? I'm glad to see that we're able to hire somebody, keep some of the kids in town.
Well, that's what I was going to say too, that's what we've been, trying to achieve, is to provide jobs and housing and keep our local people here. And so I'm equally happy. Thank you for coming back.
Appreciate it. Okay, the other announcements that we have then are the times and so forth on the tree lighting and the...
The Christmas tree lighting is this Friday around 5 o'clock on Main Street, and then the Christmas parade is at 1 o'clock on Sunday. So it's going to be a busy weekend here in Placerville. We invite everybody to come down and take part in both of the festivities. It's an ongoing tradition, and we're really looking forward to having a good weather and a nice turnout.
Good. Thank you, Steve. And closed session report, Mr. Driscoll.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Hagan. The council did not take reportable action in closed session tonight.
Okay. Item 5 would be the adoption of the agenda. Any changes or corrections?
Move for the adoption. Second.
Been moved and seconded. Do you have those, Borelli and Patton? Call for the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Ceremonial matters. Don't have any scheduled that I'm aware of. This is the time for public comment. Have we received any written communications at this time? None? Okay. And under oral communications, this is the time for the public to come forward. State law prohibits the council from acting on any items that are not listed on our agenda, except by special actions of the city council. Please give your written material presented to the clerk, Ms. Zito, and also state your name for the record, please. Mr. Kobus.
Good evening, Vice Mayor Hagan, members of the council. My name is Mike Kobus, and I'm here representing the Placerville Drive Business Association. The Placerville Drive Business Association, PDBA, has been informed that the City of Placerville is currently investigating the offer of a temporary use permit to the site of Christ-like Services for the allowance of an emergency shelter for homeless people from the greater Placerville area. The building in question is located at the corner of Green Valley Road and Placerville Drive. We understand that for the last few years, Christ-like Services has been doing vocational training with homeless and indigent folks and has been very successful in this endeavor. We're very supportive of this effort. We do have concerns about a daytime shelter being allowed at this site. We are cognizant and sympathetic with the plight of the homeless and are willing to review any and all solutions. But as a business group representing businesses, property owners, and residents, the people that call Placerville Drive home, we have concerns. Many of these concerns can be attributed to the opening and subsequent closing of Hangtown Haven. It is apparent that Hangtown Haven was very successful in many areas. It provided shelter, a permanent address, and a sense of belonging, family, and self-worth that many homeless people were lacking. We applaud them for that. It was also designed to be transitional housing with a one-year temporary use permit. Our feeling is that for many of the residents of Hangtown Haven, it became a permanent residence and not an avenue to transition. Hangtown Haven also brought a lot of national notoriety to the city of Placerville. Hangtown Haven put out the welcome mat for homeless to come from all over and seek refuge. Little did transient people know that the Haven was only for homeless people of the Placerville area, but yet they came in droves. Illegal homeless camps sprung up on Upper Broadway and surrounding areas. According to Chief Heller, crime statistics spiked. We understand that some of this excessive crime can be attributed to the state of California releasing thousands of felons into our society. But we also feel that much of this crime came from the influx of homeless people into the Upper Broadway area. Just to drive along Upper Broadway will attest to the increase in the vagrant population and the increase in crime. The Placerville Drive is the economic hub of the city of Placerville. The presence of the car dealerships, Home Depot, Raley's, and many other thriving businesses provide the city with much-needed tax revenue. Many of our businesses on Placerville Drive are very concerned that a temporary homeless shelter may have a negative impact on the business climate, as it did on Upper Broadway. Is the city moving one problem from one area of the town to another? Although we do not speak for them, the current location of the Boys and Girls Club is within 1/4 of a mile from the proposed location of the temporary shelter. A new Boys and Girls Club facility will be breaking ground, I believe, this spring, which is within 100 yards of the proposed shelter. Is this the appropriate site for a temporary shelter for homeless people? In December, the Hangtown Holiday Ice Rink will be opening in about 2 weeks from now as a family-friendly facility at the fairgrounds. We anticipate thousands of visitors. We're hoping 10,000, that's what our goal is, will use the rink. And most of these visitors to the rink will be children that will be dropped off and probably picked up later in the day. All of these concerns should be voiced and vetted with the people of Placerville Drive. We're not opposed to a shelter on Placerville Drive. We just want to be informed. We propose a community meeting in conjunction with the PDBA and the other businesses in the area to inform all concerned of the proposed shelters. We've been in contact and communication with city staff and a few council members to express our concerns. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mike.
You're welcome.
Additional comments from anybody in the public? Seeing none, I'll close public comment period at this time. Mr. Morris, could you address I think the incorrect information that it's not an overnight shelter?
Well, yeah, two things. The facility being referred to, and I will let you know, has been opened as a day shelter with a temporary use permit that has been issued. It's been operating for almost 2 weeks now. And I want to assure you that we have stated that, and the temporary use permit is only good through March 31st when the nomadic shelter closes. At the same time, this day shelter is required to close. So it is not a long-term thing, and referring to the new, talking about the new Boys and Girls Club, it will not be there when the new Boys and Girls Club opens. Right. It is only through the nomadic shelter season, gives us a little bit of time to work on a permanent solution or a more permanent solution that we plan on working on with the county, and we are meeting with them to try and figure out what that is. They are only there during the day, and it's only till approximately 4 to 5 o'clock when they go up to the upper room area for their meal and then transport to the nomadic shelter. They're not allowed to be there after that, with the exception that is one of the areas that was buildings that was requested, and two nights a month is being used as part of the nomadic shelter. That is the second and fourth Saturdays of the month. It's being used as part of the nomadic shelter. Again, we plan on monitoring it very closely. We have some tight restrictions that allow us that if it all becomes a problem, that we can close it down. I've asked our police department to closely monitor it on a regular basis to observe any problems. They're not allowed to be doing anything, storing anything outside. Everything has to be done inside the facility. As mentioned, a lot of their services they are getting in terms of showers, food, counseling, et cetera, are still going on up at the upper room and the Community Resource Center. And with that, we fully anticipate that much of their time will still be spent up in that area, which still doesn't resolve all our problems up on Upper Broadway. So for that reason, we do not think that we are moving the problem down here, because most of their services that they receive are not down on Placerville Drive. But again, I appreciate the concerns, and I would, ask the business owners in that area, please, you know how to get a hold of me. Call me immediately if you observe problems that are increasing down there, and we will attack them early and make sure that it does not become a major problem in that area. So,
Thank you, Cleve. Did you have a comment, Patty?
I just have a question. Cleve, now, is it the folks that are there, are they the same folks and under the same rules that applied at the Haven?
they have similar rules, not completely the same because different operator. But from what I've observed initially, most that I've seen over there, and I go there almost every day. However, I didn't go on the weekend. I understand there were quite a few people last Saturday there. Other than that, my understanding is there's only been, the most there's been is maybe a dozen people there. And normally, the most I've ever seen is maybe a half a dozen there.
I think I specifically was questioning whether it's Placerville residents.
Well, my answer will be no to that because of the fact that the nomadic shelter also does not restrict just to Placerville residents.
Oh,
And-
okay.
And so they've opened it
But
up
the
similar
Haven
to-
did.
The Haven did, well, yes and no.
Supposedly.
Yes.
Okay. At this time, then we moved on to consent calendar, unless any other comments? Consent calendar, items 8.1 through 8.11.
And I have one that I want to,
Anybody would like, any council member would like to pull anything off?
I do, and it's just for a question.
Which one?
I can't remember which one.
I have, while you're looking, I have a question on 8.3. It's dated December 10th, and I'm assuming that's just a typo? That maybe that should be November 26th city council meeting?
Dave, do you have anything on that, or?
Yeah, the date
Yes,
is
that is a
incorrect, but
typo.
the
I
dates
apologize.
in the actual report are correct.
Right,
Okay.
that's what I,
So, yes,
All right,
but the title
So
is
the-
the
incorrect.
title is incorrect, yes.
so we'll correct that, that's just a typo.
Okay.
Did you have anything?
Did you find what you're looking for?
Which one was it? The pool or the?
I had the page turned down, and now I can't find it. It was about, are you seeing it?
Do you remember what it's regarding, Councilmember
It was
Brown?
regarding the improvements to buying the new machinery or the new parts. And I didn't see on there whether there was whether
Oh, is that for the wastewater treatment plant?
whether there was a warranty or not. That's, my only question was, is there some sort of a warranty that it's gonna be assured that if they, and I had the,
Are you talking about the Parks and Rec thing? or
no,
The
the sewer
wastewater.
plant, the
Wastewater.
wastewater plant.
Oh,
And,
the blower
it
thing.
was a,
Well, let's see.
Thought that wasn't my phone.
8.4.
I'll tell you what, it's 8.4. So let's just pull it, and we'll go back to it.
Okay, it's gotten mixed in. I've had these,
It's 8.4.
we've had such a big agenda, and I know it got put in probably with something else, so.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Have a motion, council?
I move that we approve the consent calendar
Without-
Mayor,
without
you need-
item 8.4.
I
Okay.
second it.
It's been moved and
Vice Mayor,
seconded.
comments from the public?
Yes, I know.
Okay, sorry.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Now, is there any comments from the public on any items, 8.1 through
11.
8.11? Other than 8.4?
Sue Rodman, Placerville resident. I'll skip my comments on 8.4 and go straight to 8.5. I think that this is a good idea. This will save us repair costs in the future, and something we actually need to do. 8.6, I'd like to say we have a very large investment to protect the aquatic center. So we need to protect that investment and maintain it and not let it fall apart. 8.7 is something we absolutely need to do so that we can get the Blair's Lane Bridge taken care of and the sewer out of that creek. And on 8.8, we need to do that also so that we can proceed with the Hangtown, getting the sewer out of Hangtown Creek. All of the other grants, 8.9, 8.10, 8.11, are all for the streets. I would really like to see us apply also for some water and sewer grants. And those are my comments on them.
Thank you, Sue. Any additional comments from the public on any consent calendar items? Seeing none, I'll close the public comment section. So, at that time, we call for the question, please.
Councilmember Borelli,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Hagan,
Aye.
Councilmember Patton,
Aye.
Councilmember Wilkins.
Aye.
Okay, it passes. And then we are, we're on item 9. There are no ordinances scheduled. We are at item 10, public hearings. At this time, I'd like to open pass it on to, I guess, Andrew Painter.
Carl, I have to recuse on this, so do I do that right now beforehand?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, I'm sorry, Councilman Wilkins needs to recuse herself on this particular item. She lives within that 500 feet of that project.
Mr. Mayor, before we start, and Andrew's probably going to mention this too, but I want to make sure that the council is aware that the general plan amendment requires 3 votes. It requires a majority of the members of the entire body. So it's not just a majority of those that are here tonight, but it's a majority of the entire body, and to vote affirmatively for any general plan amendment, as would any of the implementing resolutions along with that.
Okay. And then I'll ask the question, is that correct? Because she lives in that area, does she have to recuse herself? Because she's not adjacent to the property, and it's for the good of the overall community, the hospital? On the safe side,
How close is Councilmember Wilkins?
I think it was 200.
200?
Last time you told me.
Within
to-
300?
Yeah.
Then I think you should recuse yourself.
Okay. Okay.
Adios. All right. So this is the same issue we had at the last meeting on the
Yeah,
hospital.
and
We have
when
3.
when this came up the last time, Councilmember Wilkins and Mayor Thomas both recused themselves for the reasons that you've stated.
And that's the reason Mayor Thomas is not here tonight, primarily. All right, so at this time, Mr. Painter.
Yes.
And you don't look like Mr. Ravaz, but you're close, so go.
Yeah, as a reminder, this is a continuation of a project that came before you back in August, on August 27th, where the council directed staff to come back before you on this date, November 26th, and to include in our in this public hearing two different documents, one addressing the traffic relationship to the new proposed project by Marshall involving a general plan amendment, zone change, a new parking lot, conditional use permit for that, site plan review, street improvements along Washington Street, and also a parking study. Now, both of those documents are part of your staff report this evening. They are Exhibits A and B. And City Engineer Stong and I will be providing you a brief overview of those documents. At this time, I'm going to direct it over to Nate to begin the review of the the traffic component. Again, this is a public hearing, so this is new information. And because new information is provided, the public should have an opportunity to comment and provide input.
All right, I'll get things started with the traffic study that was requested at last City Council meeting, August 27th. The applicant hired Katie Anderson and Associates, was their traffic engineer in 2008, who prepared the study, which was used with their mitigated negative deck in 2008 in support of the hospital expansion. And basically summarizes that the building expansion generated traffic which required parking, and that parking was not constructed all at the hospital site proper, but rather a temporary off-site parking location was utilized from 2008 until present with a shuttle provided to shuttle employees to and from the remote parking lot. So those parking trips are assumed to be at the hospital proper in the 2008 study, and this project contemplates locating the parking lot adjacent to the hospital. So for all intents and purposes, its traffic is included in the 2008 study. With that study, there were two mitigations required for circulation and transportation. One was the payment of traffic mitigation fees, traffic impact mitigation, or a offer of property of equivalent value to the traffic fees, and that is what was done at the time. There's a property located along the city adopted TIM project that would realign Washington Street and Turner Street, and I'm sorry, I didn't provide an exhibit, but it's in our TIM program that the hospital provided a piece of property that's in the route of this, where Washington would be realigned to tie into Turner Street. So the home that's presently there would be demolished for this road, and that equivalent land value that was donated to the city was payment in part of their TIM fees. I believe there's some cash as well. The other mitigation measure was installation of sidewalks along Corker Street and retention of transit facilities. So there was concern at the last council meeting about two intersections, Cedar Ravine and Pacific, and Cedar Ravine and Washington Street. And I have looked at and talked with the applicant, and they're willing to work with us on the Cedar Ravine Pacific intersection. Those improvements are not of a costly endeavor. The restriping to carve out, if you will, a right turn pocket on eastbound Pacific as it tees into Cedar Ravine. So I've proposed in the staff report an additional condition, number 50, that the Marshall Medical Center shall restripe Pacific Street to create an 11-foot left turn pocket and a 12-foot wide right turn lane at the intersection with Cedar Ravine Road. And the center line will need to be shifted to accommodate that width, and a design shall be provided to the engineering division prior for permitting. The other intersection, Cedar Ravine and Washington, in my written report, I kept it brief. That intersection shows no operational concerns to me. The accident history doesn't reflect a concern. But there are a number of concerns raised by adjacent property owners, the residents nearby, and so I will attempt to revisit those and elaborate, I guess, on those issues. One of the requests would be to make the intersection an all-way stop. And while I agree that a two-way stop is unusual, that intersection does not have the traffic volumes that warrant an all-way stop. If sight distance were not a problem for those folks that are stopping on Washington Street teeing into Cedar Ravine, being able to see southbound Cedar Ravine Road traffic, there would be no stop sign there except for Washington approaching Cedar Ravine. Given the fact that sight distance is adequate, looking at the northbound traffic, I believe that's the reason that a stop sign was never installed there. And we've seen from the accident history that it hasn't been a problem. In fact, one of the 2 accidents in the past 5 years was a rear ender at the southbound stop sign, so that you can see there's a potential concern. And in addition, installing unwarranted stop signs can lead to problems, increased speeds, noise, there's braking and acceleration noise, and problems with accidents. People are more prone to not respect a stop sign that they don't feel is warranted, so it could lead to accident problems. There was a request for speed control measures, and in addition, stop signs should not be used for speed control. And studies have shown that it actually increases speeds between the stop signs as drivers try to make up for lost time, if you will. The speed issue on Washington was raised, and a concern about the ease with which you can turn off of northbound Cedar Ravine onto Washington and maintain your speed. And there was a request for some mitigation there in the form of potentially speed bumps. With the speed bumps, it's city policy that they only be installed on roads classified as local, and Washington Street is classified as a major collector in the city, so that would not be an option. I will say that I do agree that there's a potential there for maintaining a higher speed around that corner, and if it's the will of the council, we can look at modifying that intersection with a raised berm, with a shorter radius, and I think that's something that the engineering division can look into. I don't see it as a Marshall Medical Center issue, so I think that it's an existing problem that staff and existing forces could take care of. And with that concludes my review of the traffic situation. I'll hand it off back to Andrew, and then we can answer questions at the end, or you want to break it up?
I'd like to break up the questions at this point. Do either of you have questions on Washington Turner, Pacific and Cedar Ravine?
No, but I'm glad to hear that that they're thinking of trying to mitigate somehow the problems up there.
Yep.
As I stated, sometimes statistics aren't always the proof. It's the people living there that experience this day after day, and they see things that perhaps, even though, thank God, there hasn't been any horrific, accidents there or anything. In speaking with Mr. Ashworth, who looks at this right all the time, he said it's just the speed on Cedar Ravine seems to be the biggest factor. So if there's something that we can do to kind of slow, some kind of traffic, slow, that I think that we need to look into that, and I'm glad to hear that you're going to pursue that. Thank you.
The question I had is up on page 2 in the middle, it says the proposed realignment of Washington between Turner and Cedar Ravine would create an intersection at Washington and Cedar Ravine Road. Washington would be configured as a through leg, and I took that to read as intersecting at a T, so it would require some reconfiguration. So is that long range? That's not at this current time? So you think shortening the radius would slow the traffic down? And I know we talked about that probably 4 or 5 years ago as a potential solution to that problem at Washington.
The shortening of the radius?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, we're on the same page there. This brief summary, this paragraph you mentioned about the TIM project, the Traffic
Right.
Impact Mitigation Project, is, yeah, the exhibits that are in the Traffic Impact Project binder show what would be, the intersection would be reconfigured such that as you're northbound on Cedar Ravine, it would flow directly onto Washington Street, and the continuation of Cedar Ravine would be a T off of that. You'd have to actually make a left turn onto
Right.
onto Cedar Ravine. I have my doubts as to whether that's the direction that the traffic demand would dictate. I think
In the future, yeah.
the majority movement would remain continuation on Cedar Ravine. So
But I
it would it would
believe-
take further analysis.
But I believe that also includes when they're reconfiguring Turner and Washington into one, so that you have a through shot from that area down to on Washington, Turner, whatever they rename that to, where it comes right out onto Main Street. I think that was the circulation plan on that particular project. So,
Yeah, and I just wanted to share that I think the traffic demands would show that while there are some trips that want to take and visit, go to Broadway and Mosquito, I think the majority of folks coming from South County are headed Main Street and destinations
Bedford.
west and would continue on Cedar Ravine.
okay, thank you. Mr. Painter.
Yes, yeah, I will. I'll discuss the parking study. This is a study that was prepared by Warren Consulting Engineers, and my review of it. There are a lot of figures in it, and I'll go through these kind of one by one. First of which, the study examines the parking requirements under our city code, and determining the parking regulations within our city code. 366 spaces were determined, and staff believes that that's an accurate figure based on the medical center uses. That includes the hospital itself, their ancillary uses such as offices, clinics, etc. The study also provides a figure of kind of a peak parking demand, and the spaces accordingly total 956. And that's based on the what's called the ITE, or Institute of Traffic Engineers Parking Generation Manual. So that's kind of something I would equate to parking demand that typically shopping centers like to do, for instance, to accommodate for that day after Thanksgiving type of environment where they can accommodate as many people as they can. So that total is really a very, very generalized total for a maximum amount of parking that would be needed in a typical heavy parking demand day. But the parking study goes further to describe the number of stalls that they currently have under their control by the medical center. And those totals come up to 703. And they've broken those down into the number of employee spaces at 493 and public spaces at 210. So again, the totals of 703 is what the medical center currently has under their control and use at the current time. That was one of the requirements by council to provide that information, and they have done so and provided it for you. They further describe the number of spaces that are needed by the medical center for employees, and that's 505. As I mentioned earlier, 493 is what they currently have. I also want to point out that within the study there is some mention regarding additional parking, and those are provided in an exhibit within your parking study, and we have provided a Exhibit 1, which is on the wall behind you, showing the locations of the various parking lots in the vicinity of Marshall Medical Center, including the leased parking that they have along Main Street, which is in the upper part of the satellite photo, and it also includes Lot H, which is actually the proposed 51 stall parking lot off of Washington Street, which is slightly off or outside the satellite photo there. There are actually two parking lots which are do not have entitlements in which to legally operate a parking facility. Those I mentioned in my staff report. One has been noted by the applicant and their agent, which is parking lot NC1. That's located off Wall Street. It's west of the hospital proper. And the second is, from staff's analysis, we could not find any evidence of legality regarding lot number 6, which is off of Marshall Way. It's located north of the hospital property and would have access near the intersection of Corker and Marshall Way. Those total spaces for those two parking lots total 45. Now, in order for those two parking lots to be legitimized, conditional use permits and site plan review would be required. It would be the same process that the 51 stall proposed parking lot tonight would go through, and the Planning Commission for that type of situation would serve as the decision-making body unless appealed to you upon appeal. My analysis further kind of just subtracts those 45 stalls from the 703, and you get 658. Now, also, if you continue down on my analysis, if you subtract the leased parking that Marshall Medical Center wishes to eliminate because of its costly nature, then the total gets reduced down to, and then if you add the 51 spaces, you get a total, 78 spaces are under the lease. Under those 3 leased spaced areas, there's a total of 78 stalls. And if you add 51 to a total, you come up with a grand total of 580 spaces. Plus 51 would be 631 spaces. As I mentioned earlier, the number of employee parking that they need is 505. Both of those figures, either 580 or 631, both exceed the parking requirements required under our city code, which again I mentioned was 366. So for the hospital uses that are currently in operation, the Marshall Medical Center meets their city code parking requirement. The applicant is requesting this additional parking lot in order to offset the removal or the taking out of their lease holdings for those parking spots along Main Street. I also mentioned in the staff report that if it's the city council's direction, we could initiate code enforcement actions to those 2 parking lots that Marshall Medical Center currently operates. That's all I had this evening. I know the Warren Consulting personnel is in the audience this evening, as well as Mr. Rice representing Marshall Medical Center.
Okay, so at this time, do either of you have any questions, or would like to hear from their representative first?
I just want to say thank you, Andrew, for that. And
Thanks.
I have a question.
Okay, this time we'll hear the applicant's presentation. Mr. Whipple gets to start.
Jim Whipple, I'm the CEO at Marshall. When we are requesting the additional parking, I think the city code of 300 doesn't unfortunately meet it for a hospital property, because we have more than that in employees who come up daily for our facility. We are struggling with parking being up on the hill. We've worked with that for years. I think the 2 parking lots you discuss, I don't remember what your designations are for them, have been in operations and helped with parking for the last 30 years, I believe, with at least one of them, and the other one's probably been 20 years. So they've been key parts of our parking. The Washington Street parking will help alleviate some of our challenges with parking. We're still going to be at times when our patient population will exceed the number of parking spaces there. We also use, that I don't think was mentioned, the church grants us use of their parking lot, which is about 2 to 3 blocks away, and at times we can have 30 or 40 people parking in that site also. So we would ask the City Council to approve the one parking lot to help alleviate some of our parking needs, plus also save a significant amount of money for the lease, because currently we shuttle, which costs us upwards of about $160,000, $180,000 a year to shuttle employees in from the leased parking. And certainly not take away the parking that we have been using for all these many years. And I'd answer questions or concerns that.
Well, typically, we would have your engineer or anybody else
Okay.
that's going to speak, and then we'll come back with
Okay.
questions.
Dana,
So-
do you want to say?
So,
Hi, I'm Dana Rice, Director of Construction and Engineering at Marshall Medical Center. I don't really have much to add to what James said. I just wanted to say that I think I was a little too passionate about this subject on the August 27th meeting, and I wanted to apologize and say that I have the utmost respect for the council members and the city staff. I would just like to say that we really do need this parking. We want to take care of our patients here in this county, and if they're driving around looking for a place to park, heaven forbid, we don't want them to go down the hill. I mean, we really want to take care of the residents of this county. As far as the technical, the smart guys are here from Warren Engineering, and they could answer probably any technical questions that you have.
okay. And at this time, then I would ask, is there any other public comments at this point? Please come to the podium and state your name.
Hi, I'm Carla Kingsley. I'm sub-area 4 or D, I forget which on there. Anyway, south and west, mostly west of the new parking lot. I just noted when I was reading prior to coming to the meeting that the traffic study was done from 2008. That really, to me, is like antiquated. It might just well be a century old compared to the amount of growth and traffic and people that have moved here just in the last 3 years. And the traffic and the speed and the danger on Cedar Ravine. So I ride my bike and I walk all over town from my house up around Marshall and down to Broadway and all over the place for the past, well, zillion years. I've lived here since the 70s. Anyway, the traffic is really dangerous now. Just as close as 2009, I used to ride my bike out of my house, up the hill, down to Broadway, up by the airport, and back around, and all the way back down, shooting down Cedar Ravine from Country Club, and never was a car behind me. I was never holding up traffic in any way. I mean, and now you couldn't pay me enough money to do that. It's so dangerous. You know, cars parked on both sides of every road in town, and people driving very fast down, up and down, and looking for parking places. I know that Marshall needs the parking because we all need the parking here in town. If anybody goes through this town and has eyes every day, you see that. So all I'm asking again is that we can have a traffic control up there coming down the hill into town on Cedar Ravine where it meets Washington. We need it desperately. I listen to the cars, one after the other, bumper to bumper, shooting down the hill at very fast speed, right in front of my house. It's a blind curve coming from Washington. They cannot see. My propane driver is terrified every time he has to pull out of because they cannot see coming around that curve. And if they're coming over like 20 or 30 miles an hour, which I believe is the speed limit there, they just can't see. So I'm living it every day and thinking, all my guests that have to pull in and out of my house, I just watch out, let me go out in the street and try to direct traffic, but it's a hazard. So all I'm asking is for a stop sign. I don't know if that's a big deal. I've put in a lot of fence posts in my life, and it seems like it could be done pretty quick to paint a stripe, paint the word stop, and the police department could probably get a lot of citations and revenue from that, from enforcing it. So anyway, that's my plea to you again, is for a stop sign right at that intersection. Thank you.
Sue Rodman, Placerville resident and user of Marshall Hospital. The detour during the Cedar Ravine sewer relocation gave a first-hand look at Marshall's parking problems. The new parking lot is badly needed, and it should be approved. The status of that site right now is it's just a fire hazard. It's just a mess. It would look a lot better if it were a parking lot. And I think to realign Washington at Turner is a great idea. So I would certainly urge us to go ahead and do this. I think it's an improvement for Marshall with the new building that they have and the new trauma center. I've seen an increase in the traffic there too. So we need to provide enough places for employees to park so that you leave enough places for patients to park. Thank you.
Thank you, Sue.
Good evening, Kirk Smith of Placerville. I just had a couple questions related to my understanding about the reasons advanced for Mayor Thomas and Councilmember Wilkins recusing themselves. I believe it was stated that they both live within 500 feet of the project.
No, Mayor Thomas is on their board of directors. So one is on the board and one lives within 500 feet.
Those are the reasons.
One within 300 feet, so.
Beg your pardon?
One within 300 feet and one is on the board.
Thank you.
Okay. Any additional comments? Okay, at this time I'll close the public hearing and bring it back to the council. Ms. Patton.
I was hoping to be able to ask Mr. Whipple a question. You said that there would be an
Yes, now,
opportunity.
this is the time.
Even though the public hearing's closed.
Yeah, but we're gonna,
Okay.
right, the
All right.
public won't comment, but we can ask questions of the professionals that are in the audience.
So I appreciate you guys coming back with the parking analysis, but I'm curious that obviously this doesn't solve the parking problem. And so I would ask, what do you see as the goal, as the long-term solution for this? Because in my opinion, paving over a section of unimproved area, it isn't going to solve it. I mean, that's one of the reasons I was asking for an analysis, was to see what you have, what your needs are, but I didn't hear anything about a potential long-range goal.
Well, this significantly helps. I think adding 51 spaces is a significant improvement. I think the long-term best solution to this is a parking garage and a multi-story parking garage up there. We actually had that as part of our thought process and design into the building of our new wing. Unfortunately, the cost of a parking garage, I believe our estimates were around $110,000 a space, and made it prohibitively expensive to do it at that time. So that's the ideal solution. And we could easily do one right by the hospital on existing parking and create a short-term parking while it's being built that could add 250 to 300 spaces right by the hospital, make it close for our elderly population, our sick population to have close access. We've looked at a variety of other areas up there and land that we own or don't own presently that could have an expansion in parking. We've made some offers on several parcels that could. So I think we will come back with other projects over the next few years as we get money and attain hopefully land so that we can solve this long term. But I agree with you. This is a nice Band-Aid. It would certainly take some pressure off at this time, but we're also only going to grow. When I came to Marshall 32 years ago, we had a couple hundred employees, and we were seeing 5% or 10% of the amount of business we currently are. And this county keeps growing. We want to maintain our presence and our majority of our business in Placerville. And so we're going to have to address it as we grow. Did I answer your question? Or?
It did. I had remembered that there was a parking garage discussion, and I'm very disappointed that it's not part of this, or hasn't been part of this project, because another surface lot in an area that is already dotted with them, to me, it doesn't help our community. And having the hospital here is a huge asset. I don't deny that one bit. But another surface lot, it's not solving anything. And especially if now we're still going to have, according to the staff report, you still want to use some of the unimproved lots. So you still want to use what you already have, plus you want to add 51 more. And it's just not solving anything. And
it's not the ideal solution. I think it is solving a part of the problem, but it is not the ideal solution. Unfortunately, with this economy and with the Accountable Care Act or Obamacare that they did, we're seeing massive cuts in what we're being paid. Marshall's being decreased by $58 million over the next 10 years payments over what they currently get. So we don't have the money to solve this in an ideal solution. And so we're having to look at surface lots because the cost per parking space of a surface lot is so much cheaper. And it sort of forces you in a direction, even though I've never wanted to, tear down paradise and put up a parking lot, which is somewhat what we're being forced to do by spreading surface lots. Doing it, but 51 spaces is a significant increase in parking for our needs.
Okay, thanks.
Jim, I'll also have a question, but so.
I just wanted to follow through with what Carol was saying. I really am in agreement with her, and I understand your plight too, but I really don't think that we can keep tearing down houses up there. I just think that the housing situation in Placerville, we're so small here anyway, and we're addressing our housing problem right now, that I just don't think it behooves us to keep, tearing down houses to put in parking lots. And I would hope, I suggested to one of our staff that we maybe create a staff Marshall Hospital conversation just to specifically address your long-term for parking. I really think that, a lot of heads getting together and is a good situation, and it's long range, as your plans are long range. And hopefully in the future, you're saying Marshall is going to do nothing but grow. And so we know that's going to happen. And just like you said, a parking structure is very expensive, but if that's all we can do, then I feel we have to start planning for it and, see how it's going to work out. And I would like to see that happen, that we could create we don't need to call it a committee or anything like that, but just to direct our staff to meet with, somehow, and set some long-term goals for the parking issue, because we're just going to keep needing more. And I just really don't want to see any more dots up there, parking structures. I just, and I'm not against the current, I'm fully expect to vote to put in the additional parking spaces, but I really think we need to start talking more specifically about parking with the hospital.
I think that's an excellent idea. I think that being prospective instead of waiting till we have a problem is really smart for the council to talk about. And you know, there's more than just parking with Marshall growing. As we become bigger and we go from, you know, 500 people a day of employees, which we all want jobs, but here on site to 700 or 1,000 people, and we become a bigger business, you know, it has more ramifications than just parking, that and traffic.
Traffic is going to be
absolutely.
another, yeah.
And so I think it would be, it behooves us for Marshall to work with the city and say, you know, what do we want? You know, what do you want? And how do we do this? And do we need to move some services out, or maybe, or whatever's needed to the best interest of us serving the western slope of El Dorado County and Placerville, and what Placerville should be and will be in the future. So from Marshall's side, we would love to do that, and I think that's a very wise move to take time versus wait till it's a crisis.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. I just wanted to, I was going to ask you the question is, how many employees now? I believe you're at 800, including all sites, all locations in the county now?
We run a little over 1,500 employees and about 250 doctors.
Okay.
You know, very large. We see in our different facilities over 3,000 patients a day who come to our different locations. We're the 14th largest business in the Sacramento region.
Okay. And then this lot doesn't increase the number of spots, but it reduces your need for a shuttle service and the lease parking down on Main Street. So there is I think a win-win for us here by doing that. One, it's near the hospital, so your employees will be able to walk over to the office, weather permitting and so forth, and unions, whatever employee groups require. But I do know that I really like Patty's idea that we do sit down and talk together. 30-some years ago, I was on a citizens advisory board at the hospital, and I don't know if you still have that, but it would seem to me that maybe some people from your board and your staff could meet with our staff and a couple of members. By rules, we can't have more than 2 council members, but I think it would be great for us to do that in the future.
Yeah, I think so, and maybe some of the local community too, so that we have a broader perspective. No, I think that is a really good idea, and we strongly support that.
And I believe when you built this latest addition, that realignment of Washington, Turner through to Cedar Ravine was part of the master plan, but again, it's for down the road as we have TIM fees available and we have more traffic studies. And again, traffic studies that we are looking at tonight is updated from the 2008. In other words, comments and so forth, they're based on the expansion of the hospital. So what we're looking at tonight doesn't, nor were they instructed to do a complete new traffic study for this parking lot. So it was based upon the expansion of the hospital and the building of the hospital, not this particular lot. But we will be doing more traffic studies on there, and actually we have one starting just recently.
The one, yeah, we voted on to.
Partially for Clay Street, Cedar Ravine, Main Street. Those intersections will involve some of Cedar Ravine and will obviously touch the hospital and the employee count, because that all drives the account of those things. So I think those are great additions. I did want to make one note, Mr. Andrew, that on, I forget what page it's on, but it's item, the new lot H layout is miscolored. It is colored blue, which stands for, I'm sorry, it is correct.
No, it is, it's public.
But it's going to be, it's not a public lot, it's for employees.
It's for employees, yeah.
So it should have been green, but anyway, it is an employee lot additional. And we're not increasing numbers. And maybe there's a way we can also encompass the study so that we take a look at the, at least a lot at the Pines to make sure we can, because that is just another adjacent hospital, if you will, where we can coordinate something on those lots so that we can make them conforming to current standards for parking at relatively low cost, because they're already in that, that use. Not saying we go around all of the fees, but, or all of the special use permits, but we shouldn't have to bring in any rezoning changes like this particular one causes.
No, I do have a comment about the opening up, so to speak, of the leased parking spots.
Yes.
Should this go forward with the, you think about those lots were used for the most part by Stansel's Toyota.
Right.
And they were used for inventory of cars.
Right.
There's a potential, although I don't know what the percentage is, but there's a potential for those lots to be redeveloped, and that's maybe not the term that we want to use these days, but redeveloped.
Economically developed.
Thank you. Economically developed in a way that's conducive with the commercial zoning, perhaps more retail, perhaps more offices, and not just a paved surfaced parking lot that was formerly stored vehicles. So that's another potential that opening those lots up might incur.
No, that's what I agree.
Good observation.
Very good observation, and thank you for those comments. Mr. Whipple, thank you very much for your time and for showing up here.
Carl, I had one other thing.
Okay.
Oh, I don't know how close you are, but I think you're close to calling for a vote. I wanted to address City Council. It's on page 4 of the Nate and Andrew's presentation about City Council should direct, or could direct staff to start code enforcement regarding Marshall's use of unpermitted lots L6 and NC1.
Okay.
And I would like to enter that as part of
the motion. So you want to go ahead and make a motion?
I'll
at
make
this
the
time?
motion. How extensive does it have to be?
We're going to,
I'm sorry.
Should we do this as a bifurcated vote? Do you have to do a zone change first?
I don't know.
John?
How do you want
It's
it?
proposed as one, and actually a number of the, exactly. So if you vote for the zone change, then you're basically locking yourself into the other resolutions. So you could do it as one is what I think I'm getting to.
Okay. So then the motion would be, or could be, follow staff's recommendation, including adoption of item number 50. And in addition to that, have staff look at, start discussions on code enforcement for lots L6 and NC1.
And then, assuming that it were to pass, then Susan would be recording the vote separately on the resolutions as she would on the, and actually, you're just introducing the ordinance.
Okay.
So.
Because we have another meeting to come back with on the ordinance.
Right. It's a little confusing, but I think we can sort
Well,
it
that's
all
why I
out.
didn't know how to. Right.
So do you want to start?
I just want to make a comment.
Okay.
Because I'm having a hard time with this. I just want you to know.
Okay.
So unless we can get in the record within a year that there will be a committee convened to address the long-term parking,
That's
I
fine.
won't be able to vote for it.
Okay.
Because-
I'd like to start next month. It's fine with
Okay,
me.
because it's just paving another parking lot.
It
and
is.
It's just not,
I
it's not a
agree.
solution for me.
I agree.
So,
And I agree.
So you want item 51 added or something to that effect?
well, I don't know if can you make that mandatory? Because that would have to be, the applicant would have to do that. I don't know, whatever.
Well, they've agreed that we need to do this study, so somehow we need to introduce it, that we
Would
need,
it be
we
a
want this.
Well, you can put it in your motion as part of what action you want to see. The problem is that once you do that, you're also giving them the entitlement at the same time. So if,
So there's no hammer.
there's no hammer, exactly.
What do you suggest?
You're basically acting, what you're doing is you're committing to setting up this committee, if you will, but it doesn't mean that it's going to resolve anything or that you're going to have a solution within some given
Right.
period of time.
Right.
And I guess Marshall could say, although I doubt very seriously that they would, we're not going to participate. Mr. Whipple made it clear that they were willing to do so. But it's a wish list, is what it boils down
Right.
to. Yeah.
Right.
Well, okay, so if we made the motion without that, and then we direct staff to get the ball rolling, that doesn't have to be a motion, does it? If we,
No, but we,
it could just be a directive?
the other thing is, they have 2 lots pending that we have a hammer on, sorry.
We have 2 lots pending.
These,
The 2,
the,
The 2
That I
the illegal ones.
yes.
Well, that's not, as far as I'm concerned, that's not, I mean, it's, if we accepted staff recommendations, that's to start the code enforcement right
but
now.
we could also put that, start the code enforcement and meet with city on future planning parking. needs.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, put it as part of that.
Okay. Yeah, were you gonna say something?
I was just saying, I think you could include as part of your motion that directing staff to begin this committee.
Okay.
Again, as John has mentioned, it doesn't really, there's not a real hammer with it, but we would immediately start looking into that and proceed with it.
Well, I think that's really important, and so I'll go ahead and make a motion that we adopt the staff report, that we approve the general plan amendment and zone change, the environmental assessment, the conditional use permit, and the site plan review, and we accept the traffic and parking studies. And we add that we adopt the staff report's findings with respect to the mitigated negative deck, that we adopt item 50 from the city engineer's report, that we initiate code enforcement on the illegal parking lots, and that staff work with Mr. Whipple and whoever else to develop a community advisory board to look at the long-range parking needs and how to best serve the community and the hospital's needs.
Can I ask that you just include in that motion that you introduce and waive the first reading of the ordinance?
Yes, that I would introduce, where does it say that? I would be glad to introduce and waive the first reading.
Thank you.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Would you call for the vote?
Councilmember Borelli?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Hagan?
Aye,
Councilmember Patton?
Aye.
thank you. I believe, thanks for all of you from the hospital staff and
And thank our
being here,
staff too
and
for,
our staff, and I would like to also ask Carla Kingsley if she would meet with the traffic engineer at some point soon and try to, so you can be kept informed of what's going to happen and what we can possibly do to mitigate some of the traffic issues at where you live.
At Washington.
We can't change the curve. That was there when you bought the house. So, but anyhow, thanks for your input tonight. So, I believe we are on item 12. But let me move item 8.4 for items pulled from consent before we do council reports at this point. So, on item 8.4, I believe there was an error or a question regarding,
Patty had
it was mine.
We got Tricia coming, Councilmember Wilkins
Trish
coming in.
needs to come
Just
back
a
in.
minute.
oh,
There she is.
I'm sorry.
I thought you went home.
I thought you left or were taking a nap back there. I apologize for not calling you back. The record would indicate that Ms. Wilkins returned to the dais. We're on item 8.4, which was pulled from consent, and I believe the concern had to do with Ms. Borelli.
The concern was that we're having to replace these units, and I wondered, or the parts, is there a warranty with those? And also, I was wondering, how long do these units generally last?
I can answer that. I was actually communicating with Wiley on my smart device here while we were conducting other business. So I was able to find out it's a 1-year warranty, and those units were installed in '97 originally. So
So they've
They're-
lasted
they're
this long
15,
without
16
any
years.
kind of,
they've been yes. And they should have been looked at with the 2009 upgrade. And I think at that time they were, with the beginning of the work, they were less than 10 years old. And by the time the plant, was upgraded and completed in 2009, they were 12 years old. So Wiley has said that they've been babied along. And
it's not because of lack of maintenance, it's
no,
because they just wear out.
They have a short design life. They're big high-speed blowers that
Sure.
that
Okay.
wear out. And the 1-year warranty is, if we don't hear any vibration or abnormal noise in that first year, then you're through that early failure potential, and I'm pretty sure that it's going to be reliable for the design life.
And that's 2 out of 3 we're replacing?
Repairing, yes.
Repairing.
And there are 3 total, yes.
Okay, thank you. Any additional questions?
No, that's it.
Have a motion?
I'll move for,
Or-
oh.
Any public comment? Sorry.
Sue Rodman, can you hear me?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
I was going to
We-
see how loud you could do without the mic, but that's,
You might not want to know. What this means is that of 3 units, we're down to 1 working unit, which puts us very close to failure. The design for the plant was for 3. There's a reason for that design for 3, and that's to avoid failure and to avoid big fines from the Central Valley Water Quality Board. We need to run this plant as it's designed. The infrastructure mess we are in now is the result of too much deferred maintenance. And that philosophy, it leads to failure and it needs to end. We need to do these things. So I would say, if we're going to have a Measure H that's effective, we need to take care of the infrastructure we already have. And this is simply taking care of the infrastructure that cost us $44 million in the first place. We certainly need to do it.
yeah, I agree. These were in place at the time.
And there was never a question in my mind about whether we needed it or not. It was just, I wanted to know about the warranty, and I wanted to know how long they usually last. And I got my question answered. Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional comments? Any other public comments? Seeing none, I'm going to close the public hearing part and move it back to the council for action.
Move for adoption of
Sec-
8.4.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded. Roll call, this is a dollar item. Please.
Councilmember Borelli?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Hagan?
Aye.
Councilmember Patton?
Aye.
Councilmember Wilkins?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you. Item 8.4 passes. We are now on item 12, and that would be council reports and requests for future agenda items. Ms. Patton.
I don't have any requests other than I would like to express my deepest gratitude to my fellow council members and to Cleve Morris and the city staff and the members of the city of Placerville, and I would wish you a very happy and joyful Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ms. Patton. Ms. Burrell.
Ditto. And I also don't have very much to report. I attended a transit audit, and that was about it. My exciting 2 weeks. And I'm also looking forward to the Christmas tree lighting Friday night and the parade Sunday, and I hope everybody's going to turn out for it. I also would like to remind everyone that during the parade that they have the Toys for Tots barrel right at the bell tower, and they're requesting toys for tots, and so I think
New unwrapped.
new and unwrapped, and so
Or
anybody
cash.
that can't, or yeah, they're suggesting even cards, gift certificates, etc. And I heard the comment the other night that they receive an awful lot of gifts for small children, and that this goes up to age 13, I believe, and that sometimes they're lacking in gifts for the older kids, so it might be something you want to think about. So anyway, looking forward to seeing everybody. I see all the trees are already decorated and along Main Street, and I can hardly wait for them to be lit. So thank you.
Ms. Wilkins.
I have one thing to report, that this microphone compared to that microphone is awesome. I can hear myself for the first time in a year.
It's okay. Put Wendy back over there.
I have one thing to report that I did on the 16th, on last Saturday. It was the Blues and Brews event for the Veterans Memorial Park, and it was so fun. They had 2 different bands with the blues music, and they had food, and they had beer and wine, and it was really cool. And it was for the Veterans Memorial Park. So, and I also want to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving, and I'm really looking forward to the parade and the tree lighting ceremony.
Okay, thank you. Let's see, again, I have on my notes that we have the parade coming up and we have the tree lighting. Festival of Lights
Get that right.
for Christmas trees. We also, I had a SACOG Transportation Committee meeting this past week. We talked about transportation funding from 2015-16 through 2025. I also had a El Dorado County Transit Commission audit review. That is absolutely exciting. I want you to know. Mr. Warren would really love it. I attended a New Morning Shelter update on the evening of the 21st. And I did want to remind everybody, if you haven't heard, IT, Imagination Theater, is doing a production called Les Mis. It is one of the first times that's been available for small community theaters. And I want to let you know there's about 100 local individuals in that production, and it is fantastic. It starts the 29th. I saw a preview performance last Saturday evening, and pretty much a full house for that event. And I think if you have an opportunity, you really want to take a couple hours out of your evening schedule between the 29th of this month and the 29th of next month and attend that play. It is well worth $13 or $14. You would pay $50 or more dollars to see it on Broadway or to see it at the Sacramento Memorial Auditorium. So, and it's a lot of great local talent. So, anyway, and I don't have any relatives that are involved in it. So, just sounds like it. A lot of the kids I know from several years of being involved in the community. And that's all of the reports. Mr. Cleve Morris, do you have any staff reports or city manager reports?
I don't think so. Just, I think I got everything arranged. You're all set for the parade on Saturday. Sunday, excuse me, Sunday, thank you. I won't be there Saturday. So I'll let you know if there's any updated information. I haven't actually received any confirmation from the parade organization yet, but hopefully that's coming, and I'll let you know as soon as I get it. I'll be monitoring.
We'll just show up.
Yeah, we'll show. They'll have to let us in.
So that, I don't believe there's any other staff reports that I'm aware of.
Any upcoming items?
Upcoming items, of course, from tonight's meeting, you'll have the second reading of the Marshall item on December 10th. Also on December 10th, we have completed, finally, and I'll be presenting our final economic development strategy for your review and hopeful approval, but there may be amendments that you'll be looking at that. So that has been completed by your Economic Development Committee, and so you'll be having that on your agenda. And then just as a heads up, this Saturday I'll announce my December 1st is my 3-year anniversary. So you'll be receiving a notice for to do my evaluation on the 10th.
I hate
also.
those.
I'm sorry.
You said good job.
So anyway, I'll be sending you some information and the evaluation form by email so that you can have that. I'll probably get it out tomorrow to you. So
sooner than later.
Yeah.
Yes, sooner than
I'd
later.
like to steal it.
You should have it tomorrow. So
Thank you.
Saturday.
Wow, how time
Yeah,
flies.
the 1st, December 1st was my start date. So
3 years.
yeah, or Sunday, I guess, isn't it? December 1st.
Doesn't seem possible, does it?
Yeah.
Yes.
Sunday, sorry. Okay.
All right, so then at this time, we'll adjourn this meeting till the next regularly scheduled city council meeting on December 10th, 5 p.m. closed session, 6 p.m. regular session. Thank you all for attending, and happy holidays to everybody. Thank you.